What's up, YouTube? Okay, it's February 15th, 2023. Okay, so I just have to make an announcement here about my recent theories and very frequent theory in my most recent videos. I have to make this. I have to finally do this. Okay, like I was predicting, that I might have to do. You might remember I was saying that this might happen. If you've watched my recent videos, I was saying I might actually have to give a diagram showing why the senses actually are. They either are particles or they aren't particles, but they act very similarly to particles do, and they also happen to not be non-physical. They're not non-physical, they are physical. And that's just in the most recent videos. But anyway, can't okay, this is unfortunate, friends, because my phone is very dumb. I have a cheap Android phone. You might have noticed I went through different Android phones and different phones throughout the course of this channel. I went through several. They've all been cheap Androids because I never feel as if I haven't expressed enough that I do not condone to investing in high technology, high cost phones, for the simple fact that, again, if you've watched my videos, if you've even just watched some of them, a tiny amount, you'd know that I'm not the kind of person who cares about that sort of stuff. I just want to have a functioning phone. But anyway, here, let's so yeah, I mean, it makes it easiest if you have a diagram. So okay, so look, here's what it says. Atoms never actually, and I didn't finish the sentence. Atoms never actually um, become each other. Okay, they don't ever actually become each other. Okay, so here you have an illustration of a person, and you have their hand, arm thing, and eventually, and so if you zoom in, if we looked at it from a closer angle, you could see this is what it looked like up really close. So you have the object 1, object 2, both of which are composed of atoms. That's object 1. And the fingertip, let's call it object 2 for now. Right? So if we looked at it up close, remember, object 1 is now getting closer to object 2. Well, if you zoomed in even further, look, I wrote can't be the same thing because on the quantum level, if you zoomed in enough, it would just be, object 2 would just look like a little orb, which is an atom. Even if you went to the tiniest freaking particle it could ever be, when you get to the level of physical where it's not atom, it's just like the tiniest possible particle where you can't divide down any further. Let's just say it's this, and then on the left is, of course, still object 1, and this is just the corner of it. Well, just like right here, except it's much closer, Well, even then, they can't be the same thing. They can't occupy the same spot in space. Why is that? Well, first of all, in physics, um, it is literally a proven fact that no two physical things can occupy the same space. Although it will definitely look like they are if you're zooming out and if you're not looking close enough. And sometimes, even if you are zoomed in, it'll still look like they actually can occupy the same space. But no, there's just really small spaces to be occupied. And if you don't understand what movement or what quantum movement is made of, or what movement in general is made of, you won't understand this. Because it's made of Remember how I said in one of my most recent videos, and I've proven it. Movement is actually teleportation. So every time one particle goes to point A to point B, it's just switching positions in space with other particles. So at point B, there's a particle there. Point A, a particle is there. Point A goes to point B, but it has to replace the particle that was at point B. They can't both be there at the same time. It's just impossible. So, but if you don't say that, and you don't believe that, and you use the contrary logic, you can still it'll be fine, because you'll still be able to understand a lot of the things I've been showing and teaching on here, as far as the paradoxes within space that I was showing, and that there's a paradox going on here as well. Because even if two particles could occupy the same space, that doesn't mean you wouldn't have, a spaces everywhere. That there could be spaces. Although it would just be another paradox, but I don't think that paradox happens. But anyway, the point is, if you've been following along with my videos, you'll be familiar with what I've been saying. But I'm so sorry, it just doesn't stop. I keep getting notifications from that website, and okay, I have to mute that app. So I finally muted that dumb app. Okay, so look. Here we have it. Okay, and so in between the most furthest you can go to the left of his fingertip to where it touches the point, the most pointy point of that, they never actually become the same thing, but he still feels the pointiness. Hence why he says feels pointy. You know what I'm saying? He's still feeling it. So that means that in quantum physics, quantum mechanics, in regular physics, in all science, all math, it all supports what I was saying, that there are paradoxes, and there must be, on the quantum scale, that there must be paradoxes in space and in physics, that paradoxes must exist in the universe. Okay? So at that scale, it really is just it's just a little tiny circle orb, and that's just that. And they never actually become the same thing, but because they just can't, even by the logic of the diagram. If you just draw them being closer and closer, even then, they can never be the same thing. So they'd never actually be at the same position. It looks like they are here, but really, when we zoomed in, we just saw. It just shows that, when you zoom in, it just becomes even more and more and more and more obvious that they never actually are the same thing. Uh, if we respect the fact that they are independent from each other and external to each other to start off, then it would follow that they always are, even when you divide them down further and further, no matter how much further you go down. If we respect that as a fact all the way through, then at the end of it, they're still not really the same thing. And what now? As for some evidence that they're not the same thing, well, first of all, you know, how would they even become the same thing? Is one of the things, by what process? By what process would Atom 1 and Atom 2, or the little point and his point right here, by what process amongst themselves could they become the same thing? They can't become the same thing because, quite literally, they're always at two different points in space when the intersection or touching happened. And so even if you did try to make them become the same thing, it's just a paradox, because it's like saying A can equal B, even though A is just A and B is just B. So no two things can actually be the same thing. Everything is different. So they never actually are touching in the way they've taught throughout all of history, or at least the way they were alluding it to be, wording it with retarded exaggerative speech patterns. Really, they don't really mix. They don't become the same thing. They just get really close. But no matter how close they become, they never actually are the same thing. And so there's always some space between them. There's always some kind of space between them. If that's the case, then how does he even feel the shape, the point? How is he feeling the pointiness if his shape has never become the point? His shape, the shape here, Atom 2, never becomes the shape of the point that is Atom 1, but it feels the point of Atom 1. So it never morphs into the shape. First of all, it never really morphs into the shape. And second of all, even if it did, why would that even make him be able to feel the shape anyway? Because morphing into a shape does not make you feel the shape that you morphed into. Otherwise, every physical object would feel its own self just because it's its own self. But that's circular logic. If atoms really are feelings, or if particles really are feelings, then they would have to, it would have to mean that this actually has become this, which is a feeling. We say that the point is a feeling, and it is. The pointiness is as a shape is a feeling. It is a feeling that we feel while we are external to it. But for some reason, it's only a feeling. It's only a feeling when nerves occur. But even nerves are just the same thing as what I'm showing here. So it's not really the nerves causing it. It's just there's just a correlation, and it's just like a parlor trick, like I've been saying all along. So the question is really just like, what even is there to say about this then? Because on one hand, this does not change shape, neither does this, yet this feels the shape of the point, but neither change shape for that to happen. So it's like, yet we know that the physical shape, we know that the feeling of the point is actually felt by this, with neither of them changing shape. So it's like, literally, like, that's what happens, because they can't be the same thing. And even if they were, it would just make less sense if they did become the same thing. And again, on top of that, Being a shape doesn't make you feel the shape that you're being. You can't a thing can't feel itself. A feeling can't feel itself. It's impossible. Or a sensation can't feel itself. So if that's the case, then really the fact that the one on the right here actually feels this point right here without being the point, and without the point changing its own shape, and without um and without and without the one on the right becoming, neither of them changed, but the one on the right felt the point on the left. Well, then it must be that feeling that the right one is feeling, that the one on the right is feeling, that sensation, it actually is it's just felt. It's just something you feel, and it happens exactly where the one on the right happens, if that makes sense. Like, so like I was saying, if you touch a point on an arrow, your fingertip will feel the point, the shape that is the point, but your fingertip does not become that shape to feel it, because a shape can't feel itself. And so yet the feeling or the sensation of the point happens where your atom is, exactly where it is. We pinpoint it. It happens exactly where your fingertip is, right here. The feeling of this point happens right here, even though they don't become the same thing. So how is that possible? How can that feeling or that sensation be here, even though it's right here? Even though neither of them have changed shape. So that's proof that feelings are paradoxical. Because nothing that I've shown on the diagram could possibly make that happen. So it must be something external to all physics, all physical processes. And whatever that would be would not really involve any logical process, because it wouldn't involve any variable that could make sense to make it happen. So it'd be a paradox. So that's why I said it's God. That's why I've been saying God is paradoxical. That's one of many reasons, actually. If you want to know what those many reasons are, watch my various videos talking about the many reasons. Still have this cough. But quite literally, it's shown right here. It's shown and implied. Okay. Like I said, we know they never actually become the same shape or the same thing, because they don't even occupy the same space. I mean, look, unless you're trying to say that the fingertip starts to replicate the point, unless you're trying to say the fingertip actually starts to replicate the point without becoming the point itself, that's one thing. But even then, it wouldn't actually make sense to create the feeling of the point, because either way, a shape can't feel itself, and a feeling can't feel itself. A feeling can only be felt by something external to itself, and a shape can only be felt by something external to itself. So, yeah, I mean, not only that, but again, the particles, as far as we're concerned, are just images, and they never become each other. There's no they're all different. Every single one is different, even if they're extremely similar. So, yeah. And if that's really the case, then And at the end of the day, they don't really become each other here. So, let me know what you think. Do you think this means that, like I said, even if, oh yeah, the other thing I forgot to mention is, even if, or I might have mentioned this earlier, but just to run it home one more time, they don't, I'm saying here and I'm affirming, they don't change shape in any of the process of the feeling. But even if they did, the only shape that would change shape is the one on the right to imitate the left. And even if it did, how did it do it? You know, first it's a spear and then it becomes a point. But it can't morph itself into that, and the one on the left can't do it either. So in either case, you have paradoxes to logic and to physics. Okay. So at the end of the day, um, you know, at the end of the day, there is a paradox in physics to feeling, and this would mean that all the senses really are actually also paradoxical because they're actually all contingent upon each other, and they not only are they contingent upon each other, but they're all around the same level of logical because they all are similar processes. So, extremely similar process. Just scaling them off of each other. So ultimately, yeah, that's the end. That's all there is to say about it. Honestly, and I hope you enjoyed. Please like, share, subscribe. Bye.